And another day, another book. Okay. Yamqui, and now Klingor martio, ablative, with the sonantibus tubus. The tubus are the horns and the sonantics, so with the trumpets or horns sounding with the Klingor of martio. Mars is the god of war, so there's a din of war. And strepabant, utrum partes, and both sides were strepabanting, raising their loud noises. And the primi Romani, the Romans were the first at the hostem, at the enemy. Uniqui, everywhere, with leminus ferris. So the hostem are the enemy, and it looks like everywhere they have laminated bits of ferrous, which are iron. So they've got layers of iron in the modem, in the way of genitive, a tenuous pluma, in the way of a thin feather, basically. So they've laminated sheets of iron in the way of thin feathers and contactum. So the hostem, the enemy, were contactum. They were covered or protected with laminated sheets of irons in the way of a thin feather. And they were fidentem, so they were confident, or they had confidence. And quad looks like there's a reason, because the teller, these are weapons, they can be javelins. Impactor, it looks like it goes with tellus, so when there's an impact with the weapon, they would resyllabant, which means they would bounce off. And regentus means stiff or hard. Lapsibus is probably the folds of the iron, ferrite with the iron. Okay, and so with Crebris procursionibus, this is a procursion, means they run forwards. Crebris means frequently. So for these frequent sallies or attacks, they would lassesabant. It means to provoke or assail or be hostile. With minarchi and murmurs, these are threatening murmurs. So there's strepabants, which means loud, and we'll go over murmur, which actually means something pretty quiet. But anyway, this murmur must have been a loud, threatening murmur, and they were provoking and attacking. Okay, non numquam means not never, so sometimes the compag scutorums of the shields, compag's like the framework. So we've got, so sometimes the organised way they had their shields, or the framework of the shields, qua by which or in which, were velout as if, testudines a tortoise shell. Sometimes they make lyres out of them, but we see with the Romans they use their shields and they make that tortoise shape, so they cover themselves with shields. And here we have opera banter, so they were covering themselves with these shields as if they're in the tortoise configuration. Fornicum, as we've seen before, is archways. Sometimes it means brothels, but it would mean here. Infigurabilium's a bit of a strange one, but it's a not normal shape, so odd-shaped arches they were making and covering themselves. Most aptissime, very aptly, in their tortoiseshell coverings. And with assiduous, with the constant motions or movements, laxius, rather laxly or loosely, these coverings would dehiscente, which means they would gape open. So this would be the Romans here. They use this formation, so it looks like there are gaps. Contra, so contrarily or against this, the Persians, not the Romans, obstinatiously, they were rather obstinate, present participle, they were adhering or sticking to their murus, to the walls. So the Romans were trying to attack with tortoise shells, the Persians were trying to stick to their walls. Quantum facere niti qui potret. So they were striving to do this as much as they were able to. Quantum means as much as, or however much they could. And we have an infinitive, illudere and frustrare. So connotar would be taking the infinitive. So the Persians, who were sticking to the walls, were connobatering. They were trying to elude from the fight and to frustrare, to frustrate or trying to avoid and to maybe even delay the impetus exitiale. So an impetus is the attack. Exitales is an adjective meaning it's bringing death. As you see, the exit of life, you might want to think of that. 16, virum, but, ubi, when, vimenias, these are bunches of vines basically, and brushwood and etc. And crates, that's just like things made out of the same sort of thing. The oppugnators, these are the attackers, were ferencing, these are present participles, so they were bearing, pray say, in front of them these bundles and vines. And yeah, looks like already they were pergurenting the ammonia, so now they were pressing hard against the walls. So these oppugnators would be the Romans. With Sagittarius, fundators. So fundators are slingers, they slingshot things, and they're with archers, it looks like. And so others, Queen Etienne, why even, they were volvanting, they were rolling in Gentia Saxa, which is neuter, huge rocks. So this looks like these are the defenders. They're fundators with their araman, and some even rolling huge rocks, and they are with facabuses, which are torches, and malleolus. These are a type of shaft, a bit like a arrow, but I think they burn them. They were propulsabanting them. They were pushing them forwards, keeping these oppugnators a rather longer distance. So I guess they're scared of the fire, the Romans. Maybe even these Vimiers and Cratus can catch on fire, which were then apta, suitable for ligneus sagittus. So it looks like the ballistas, which were apt for wooden arrows. They torquebented, they twisted these back with a flexu, means bent, and they made a stridor, which is a sound, and cribberima spicula, so very frequently spiculas. This is like the pointed end of a dart or a spear. So they would fundantans. These looks like the ballistas would cast out very frequently and or crowded together. Spiculas, pointed things, and scorpions. This is another kind of torment engine used for sieging. Quoquampui means two or ever. The peritomenus, experienced hands, duxis, would lead them, and they were evibranting. So it looks like these were casting off rotund lapis, round stones. So it looks like we had some singing machines which were suited for wooden arrows. It looks like they're all getting put together to cast out all kinds of sharp things and round rocks on their scorpions. 17. So, deinde, so then or next. Iterum means again, something again, and saepi means often. So again and often there was Geminatus congressibus. It looks like two sides, the twin sides had congress. They met together in battle. And aestus, looks like it was crescensing. So the heat was growing in the meridium, middle of the day. Diem means day, and meridian's the middle of the day. With the sol, which is the sun, effervescing, rather heated up. Vaporadius probably means there's vapor or steaming. The apparatu operum, so the apparatus of their work. So these are these machines and the other gear. And looks like cunctos intense. Everyone was intent for this gerund, for proleanding. Actually, it might just be the normal battle. So they had a studium, which is a zeal. So everyone was with a zeal of battle and all were intent on it, on their apparatus of their works. But they were revocaverated. They were recalled. Fatigos means they were tired, and perfusus with sudor. And so they looks like they were very profuse or dripping with sweat. This would be both sides. Okay, might as well have a daily dictionary word. Malleolus, a fire dart. Looks like in the Vulgate it's some brush for burning, but we'll stick with the fire dart, which they used here for these malleoluses. Okay, so eodem propers. This is an ablative absolute. So with the same purpose, mentis of mind, the secute die on the following day also, through various curta minums, through various contests. Looks like the genera controversae partes. So both parts were dimercantes, that's a participle. They were fighting, dimercanting is fighting. So in various contests, looks like both sides were fighting. Controversy. Instanta looks like an adverb. It usually means instantly or with hard pressing or something or urging on. Then with equus menimus, with equal hands, and pari fortuna, and with an equal fortune, they discanted. So they left the battle that day, which was the Secute. The following day, equal hands means it was things went well maybe on both sides. They both fought equally or with the same strength, and the same fortune means same outcome. So they must have had the same amount of wounded or killed, maybe. Virum, but in omne discremen, in all this danger and crisis and turning points, Proximus Princeps. The Princeps is the emperor. The emperor was a Proximus, close to the Armatus, to the armed man, Civitatis, who were the citizens, it looks like. And he was urgibating, so he was urging or pressing them for an excidium. This is like the destruction or the outcome. Nay, lest Circa Muros, around these walls, DUI, for a long time, ex-Cubans, they would be vigilant or fighting around these walls for a long time, and he would have to omiterate, he would have to omit or stop the maiora, the greater things, the bigger things, quae temptament, which he was attempting. Said in, but in districtus necessitibus, districtus means when you're busy or being pulled in different ways. So in necessitations, when it's necessary and you're being pulled in different ways, or maybe nothing tam leves, nothing is so light or so small in these necessary matters which are pulling in different ways. Quod that non itidum, that not sometimes, so that sometimes etiam even contraspirata, against what's hoped for or expected, affect, it will affect the momentum or the weighing magnarum of great things. So in other words, nothing so small that it cannot even have great movements, basically, even if they're against what's expected or what's going to happen. Okay, nearly done for the day. Cormenum. For when, ut sapi, as often, partes, when the parties or the sides are, here's a future, discessura, they're about to leave, they're concurring, they're fighting together a little less, a bit levius, a bit lighter, because they're about to finish for the day, it looks like. That's a comparative. And we've got some ablative absolute. Abusive incusso arete. So an arete is a battering ram from Aries. If you know your star signs, it's a ram. Incusso is a strike. Abusive. Just see what this is on about. Which Paulo anti-erat ad motus. Okay, so you've got some battering ram making a strike, which had a little earlier had been ad motus, had been moved. It looks like it sternated. It laid low a turret which was altior, a little bit higher than the residual omnibus, than the others which were left. And it was a firmissime structure, a very firm, solid structure made from laterae coctilli, which are cooked bricks, so baked, I'd guess. They make them, of which the ruiner, it's falling, Mirai contiguum. So it looks like when it fell, there was a side which was contiguous or next to the wall, and secum with it, it protracts it. So it brought down, when this tower come down, it brought down a wall which is contiguous to it, with a emani fragor, with a monstrous fragor, with a huge noise. And that's it for the day.